Sometimes there are these moments in life that flip a switch. It could be something that might inspire you to do better, or something that may convict you to walk a different path. Sometimes these moments are about things we already know, and other times it's about things that have taken a long time to realize. For years, I was constantly looking for parenting advice. Online, from friends, from books, anywhere I could find someone who seemed confident. And whenever I found advice that sounded like it worked for someone else, I tried to follow it exactly. I wasn't trying to copy people to be trendy. I genuinely wanted to be a good mom. I wanted things to work. I wanted peace in my home. I wanted my kids to listen, to grow well, to feel secure. But over and over again, I tried someone else's method and ended up frustrated. I'd wonder why it worked for them and not for me. I'd start questioning myself. Sometimes I even spiraled into guilt and self-loathing, thinking, what is wrong with me? Why can't I get this right? I'll never be good at being a mom. Looking back, I can see that I wasn't building convictions. I was borrowing other people's strategies. And nowhere did that show up more clearly than how I handled discipline. I think a lot of us do this, especially when we feel unsure. Motherhood is overwhelming, and when we see someone else who seems confident, we assume confidence must mean correctness. We think, if I just do what she does, I'll get the same results. But advice without discernment slowly turns into pressure. We start parenting from fear of doing it wrong instead of from a steady place. And that leads me to a moment that keeps playing over and over in my head to this day. I was at a friend's house for a girls' night. I was genuinely excited to be there. It felt good to get out, to connect, to just be with other women. I had especially looked up to this group as they were my first friend group of believers. At some point, the conversation turned to someone's kids, someone I didn't know, and how well behaved they were. Naturally, everyone was curious and asked how this mom did it. She said she spanks after one warning. The group laughed a little, saying it wasn't anything extreme. We all talked about it a little more, and a few of them confirmed that they spanked too, but that it took a little more muscle to get their kids to comply compared to this other mom. Everyone laughed again. In that moment, I didn't feel pressured. No one told me I had to do anything, but internally, I made a decision. I thought, oh, maybe this is the piece I've been missing. Maybe this is the piece I haven't been willing to use enough. Maybe this is why I'm struggling to discipline my boys. So I went home and tried to become a different kind of parent almost overnight. And honestly, it did not go well. I started handing out spankings for things I may have handled differently before. But I wasn't consistent. I wasn't grounded. I was reacting, trying to match an idea I had absorbed in one evening. My kids were confused. I was confused. The atmosphere in our home felt tense and not structured. I didn't feel like a firm, steady parent. I felt like a mom grasping for control. I felt like I was operating out of frustration and not clarity. There was no connection to my children or God in those moments. And the hardest part was realizing I wasn't parenting from conviction. I was parenting from comparison. Part of this runs deeper for me. I didn't grow up with consistent discipline as an example. Sometimes it was very explosive. Sometimes it was completely absent. I never had a clear model of what steady, loving correction looked like. So as a mom, I always felt like I was trying to build something I hadn't seen before. That left me desperate for guidance, and I kept looking outward instead of upward. I searched the internet, mostly social media. It was a place I frequently got parenting advice. I listened to friends. I tried method after method, and I still felt like I was missing something essential. What changed for me was when my faith began to deepen. I started reading scripture more regularly. I realized I had been asking the wrong questions. I had been asking, what works fastest? What gets results? What do other moms swear by? Instead, I started asking, what reflects Christ? What kind of heart do I want to bring to my home? Scripture didn't hand me a step-by-step parenting formula, but it gave me a framework for my character. Patience, self-control, consistency, love, correction without anger, and all that with steady discipline. I shifted my focus from controlling behavior to shaping hearts, starting with my own. There may be many parenting methods, but there is only one model for my heart, and that is Christ. Here's something I've had to learn. Even in Christian spaces, culture can creep in. Just because something is common or joked about doesn't mean it's your conviction. Agreement in a room doesn't automatically mean truth for your family. God may lead one family one way and another family differently. Our responsibility is not to copy what sounds confident, it's to stay sensitive to conviction. And conviction doesn't usually shout. It shows up as a check in your spirit when something feels off, even if everyone else is laughing and going with the flow. So how do we actually parent from conviction instead of comparison? First, pause before adopting advice. Ask, does this align with who I want to be as a mom? Does this reflect Christ in how I respond? Second, pray before implementing new approaches. Invite God into your decisions instead of trying something just because it worked for someone else. Third, focus on consistency over intensity. Kids thrive more on steady guidance than sudden swings in how we respond. Fourth, pay attention to your child's heart, not just their behavior. Discipline isn't just about stopping an action. It's about teaching wisdom over time. And finally, let Scripture shape your tone. Firmness and gentleness are not opposites. Christ holds both perfectly, and we grow towards that balance. You don't need to copy another mom to be faithful. Your job isn't to match someone else's system or get identical results. Your job is to stay close to Christ and lead your children from that place. Motherhood doesn't need more borrowed strategies. It needs more hearts anchored in Him. And when we parent from conviction instead of comparison, our homes may not look the same as everyone else's, but they will be shaped by something much deeper than trends or pressure. It won't happen overnight, and sometimes it feels like you're walking on a long dirt road on a scorching hot summer day with no water in sight. But little by little, you'll see the fruits of your work, and it will be so worth it. That's the kind of motherhood I'm learning to walk in, and I'm right there with you, still growing.